Hey TV Maniacs, I'm KG and today I've got a list that honestly feels too good to be true because yes, you can still watch great TV for free. No subscriptions, no free trials you'll forget to cancel, no credit card required. Today I'm breaking down 14 amazing TV shows you can watch right now completely free on a platform that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. These aren't throwaway background shows either, we're talking proper dramas, thrillers, comedies and cult favorites that are genuinely worth your time. If you're watching from the US, every single show I'm covering today is available for free on Tubi as of January 2026, and depending on where you live, many of these titles are also rotated across other free platforms around the world. Availability can vary by region, but if a show isn't free where you are, you may also find it accessible today on Tubi using a free VPN service like Planet VPN. So if you're trying to save money, tired of subscription overload, or just want something great to watch tonight without paying another monthly fee, you're in the right place. Let's jump right in. We are kicking things off with Timeless, which is one of the easiest free binge picks because the hook is instantly fun. A rogue operative named Garcia Flynn steals a prototype time machine and a tiny team is forced to chase him through pivotal moments in history before he can change them. The team is the perfect trio. Lucy Preston, played by Abigail Spencer, a history professor who's basically the moral compass and the walking encyclopedia, Wyatt Logan, played by Matt Lanter, a Delta Force soldier who's there for protection but carries real emotional baggage, and Rufus Carlin, played by Malcolm Barrett, the engineer who can actually keep the thing running while everyone else is panicking. What I love about the plot structure is how it blends time travel adventure of the week with an ongoing conspiracy. One episode you're thrown into a famous historical flashpoint, the next you're watching the ripple effects back in the present, because even a small change can rewrite someone's life. And it's not just history cosplay, the show keeps this constant tension of if we fix this, what gets broken. Character-wise, the chemistry is what sells it. Lucy's empathy, Wyatt's intensity, and Rufus's humor make the missions feel urgent and human, not just gimmicky. If you like fast-paced sci-fi, clever alternate history twists, and a show that's built for a one more episode, Timeless is a ridiculously solid free watch. Humans is one of the best what if this was real tomorrow sci-fi dramas out there. The premise drops you into a near-future Britain where lifelike android servants called synths are everywhere. They cook, clean, care for kids, do manual labor, basically they're the ultimate convenience product. And then one ordinary family, the Hawkins, brings home a refurbished synth named Anita, played by Gemma Chan. And almost immediately you can feel something is off, not in a jump scare way, more in a quiet, unsettling way where you start asking, is she malfunctioning or is she waking up? From there, the plot expands beautifully without turning into pure robot action. You're watching different corners of this society react to synths, families relying on them, workers threatened by them, people exploiting them, and authorities trying to control the growing chaos. The show follows multiple storylines, but the main spine stays character-driven. Laura Hawkins is instantly suspicious of Anita and keeps pushing at the cracks, while Joe is seduced by the easy fix the synth promises, until it stops feeling easy. And running alongside them is a whole synth storyline that's genuinely gripping, especially Niska, who's volatile and unpredictable, and Max, who's oddly tender and heartbreaking. What I love is how Humans doesn't just ask, can robots feel? It asks what humans do when given power over something that looks human, sounds human, and maybe is more human than anyone wants to admit. It's tense, emotional, and quietly disturbing in the best way, with the constant slow burn dread that society is about to change forever. If you like grounded sci-fi with big ideas, messy moral questions, and storylines that keep escalating without losing the human heart, Humans is an incredible free watch. Helix is a proper throwback in the best way, a contained, snowbound sci-fi thriller where the location does half the work. The premise drops you into a remote Arctic research facility after a potential outbreak is reported. A CDC team is dispatched to investigate, led by Dr. Alan Farragut, played by Billy Campbell, and the second they arrive, you can feel the tension. People are hiding things, protocols are being ignored, and whatever's spreading isn't behaving like a normal virus. Plot-wise, it plays like a pressure cooker mystery. The team is stuck in an isolated lab where trust collapses fast, alliances shift, and every new discovery raises the stakes. And it's not just stop the infection. The deeper they dig, the more it becomes about what the facility is really doing up there, who's in charge, and why certain people seem way too calm about a crisis that should be setting off alarms. The characters are a big part of the hook. Alan is the steady center, but he's surrounded by people who feel like they're each carrying their own agenda. Dr. Julia Walker is sharp and persistent, Major Sergio Balaceros brings military authority and a science problem, and Dr. Hiroshi Hatake is the kind of calm, controlled presence that makes you immediately suspicious in the most delicious way. Tone-wise, Helix is eerie, claustrophobic, and pulpy, equal parts outbreak paranoia and what are they not telling us intrigue. If you're in the mood for a binge where each episode ends with you needing answers, Helix is a really fun free watch to throw on when you want something tense, twisty, and icy cold. Continuum is one of those sci-fi shows with a premise that instantly does the heavy lifting. In the year 2077, society is basically run by mega corporations and a group of extremists called Liberate is about to be executed, until they pull off a last-second time jump. The problem? A future cop gets dragged along with them, so Kira Cameron, played by Rachel Nichols, wakes up in 2012 Vancouver stranded decades away from her home, her family, and everything she knows, and she has one job: stop Liberate from changing history in a way that could reshape the future permanently. What makes the plot so bingeable is that it's not just catch the bad guys. Liberate aren't cartoon villains, they have a cause, and the show constantly forces you to question whether they are terrorists or revolutionaries reacting to a future that's genuinely broken. Kira, meanwhile, is trying to uphold the law of a world that doesn't exist yet, while adapting to a present-day police force that thinks she's just a very intense, very secretive officer with freakishly advanced instincts. The characters are a big part of why it works. Kira teams up with Detective Carlos Fonegra, who becomes her closest ally in 2012, and she forms a fascinating partnership with teenage tech genius Alex Sadler, a kid who will one day become incredibly important to the world Kira came from. That dynamic is the show's secret weapon. Kira knows what Alec becomes, Alec has no idea what he's stepping toward, and the tension there fuels a lot of the best story turns. Tone-wise, Continuum is fast, smart, and surprisingly grounded for a time travel show. Part police procedural, part conspiracy thriller, with bigger questions about power, surveillance, corporate control, and whether fixing the future is even possible without breaking something else. If you like sci-fi with momentum, morally messy villains, and a lead character who's constantly fighting the clock in more ways than one, Continuum is a ridiculously solid free watch. The Shield is one of the most intense, morally explosive crime shows ever made, and the premise is basically, what if the cops you're supposed to trust are just another gang, only they have badges? The story follows Detective Vic Mackey, played by Michael Chiklis, and his elite anti-gang unit, the Strike Team, operating out of the rough Farmington precinct in Los Angeles. On paper, they're the guys who get results. In reality, they bend rules so hard they snap. Intimidation, corruption, deals with criminals, and decisions that feel efficient in the moment but poison everything long term. Plot-wise, it's a pressure cooker. Vic is constantly juggling two wars at once: the street war against gangs and crime, and the internal war of keeping his own team protected while avoiding internal affairs and colleagues who can see the rot. And the genius of the show is that it doesn't treat corruption as a one-time mistake. It shows how one bad choice creates the next and the next until you're watching a whole system of lies that can't stop growing. The characters are a huge reason it's so addictive. Walton Goggins is incredible as Shane Vendrell, Vic's closest guy and also his most volatile liability. Loyal, impulsive, and constantly one emotional decision away from disaster. CCH Pounder is phenomenal as Claudette Wims, the detective who feels like the show's moral anchor because she's smart, relentless, and refuses to be fooled by charisma. And Benito Martinez as Captain Aceveda brings the political angle, a a man trying to climb while managing the chaos below him. The tone is gritty, fast, and relentlessly tense. It's not a cozy procedural, it's an escalating spiral where consequences actually stick. If you like crime drama that's raw, character-driven, and constantly forces you to ask how far is too far, The Shield is a free watch that still feels like a TV heavyweight. Damages is one of those legal thrillers that feels like a psychological war disguised as a courtroom drama. The premise follows Ellen Parsons, played by Rose Byrne, a bright, ambitious young lawyer who lands a dream job at a powerhouse New York firm run by Patty Hughes, played by Glenn Close, a legendary attorney who wins at all costs. Very quickly, Ellen realizes this isn't just hard work and high-stakes cases, it's manipulation, loyalty tests, and strategy so ruthless it starts infecting every part of her life. Plot-wise, the show is built like a trap. Each season revolves around a major case, corporate titans, corruption, scandal, but the real engine is the shifting relationship between Patty and Ellen, mentor and protege, puppet master and apprentice, sometimes allies, sometimes enemies, always dangerous, and it uses a killer structure cutting between the present and flash forward, so you're constantly trying to figure out what went wrong and who set it in motion. The characters are the reason it's addictive. Glenn Close is phenomenal, cool, controlled, terrifyingly smart, and Rose Byrne is the perfect counterbalance because you watch Ellen evolve from idealistic rookie into someone who can play the game. You also get a strong supporting lineup including Tate Donovan and Željko Ivaniak, who add even more pressure to Ellen's unraveling sense of what's right. The tone is tense, slick, and quietly poisonous, the kind of show where a conversation across a conference table feels as dangerous as a gunfight. If you like thrillers about power, betrayal, and people making morally catastrophic choices in expensive suits, Damages is an elite free watch. Next on the list is Archer, which is a spy show if the spy show was run by the most dysfunctional idiots on Earth. The premise follows Sterling Archer, a widely talented secret agent who's also a narcissistic chaos machine working at a secret intelligence agency where the missions are real but the workplace is a disaster. It's basically James Bond energy filtered through office politics, ego, alcoholism, and people who absolutely should not be trusted with firearms. Plot-wise, each episode throws Archer and the team into covert ops, assassinations, hostage situations, and international disasters, but the real action is the constant sabotage happening internally. The show thrives on escalation. A mission starts normal, someone says something petty, everything collapses, and somehow they still stumble into success. And because it runs for multiple seasons, it also gets creative with its format, reinventing itself while keeping the core vibe intact. Fast, ridiculous, and relentlessly quotable. The characters are the secret weapon. Archer's surrounded by a perfect ensemble, his terrifying mother and boss Mallory, his hyper-competent ex Lana Kane, the pathetic rival Cyril, the unhinged assistant Cheryl, and Pam, who somehow becomes the most ride-or-die presence in the whole show. Everyone is awful in their own specific way, which is exactly why it works. Tone-wise, it's rapid-fire, reference-heavy, and brutally funny with enough spy thriller structure underneath to keep it bingeable. If you want a free show that's easy to throw on, dangerously addictive, and consistently hilarious, Archer is a must. Death Note is one of those shows with a premise so instantly gripping it feels like a cheat code. It follows Light Yagami, a brilliant high school student who finds a supernatural notebook, the Death Note, with one terrifying rule. If you write someone's name in it while picturing their face, they die. Light decides to use it to wipe out criminals and clean up the world, and almost immediately the story turns into a high-stakes battle of ideology, ego, and control, because the question stops being can he do it and becomes should anyone have that power. Plot-wise, it's basically a psychological chess match. As Light gains momentum, a legendary detective known only as L enters the game, and the series becomes this tense cat-and-mouse duel where every move creates a counter-move. Add in the Shinigami Ryuk, the death god who dropped the notebook into the human world out of boredom, and you've got this deliciously dark tone where the stakes are massive, but the show is still weirdly playful about human arrogance. The characters are the engine. Light is charismatic and terrifying because he genuinely believes he's right, while L is brilliant in a completely different way, eccentric, methodical, and relentless. Watching them try to outthink each other is the entire addiction. Tonally, Death Note is tense, stylish, and morally messy, the kind of series that makes you binge just one more because every episode ends with the board shifting. If you want a free show that's smart, suspenseful, and instantly addictive, Death Note is an old-timer. A Lonesome Dove is the kind of sweeping western epic that makes you forget you're watching TV. It feels like a whole life lived on screen. The premise follows two retired Texas Rangers, Augustus Gus McCrae, played by Robert Duvall, and Woodrow F. Cole, played by Tommy Lee Jones, who are stuck in a quiet, fading Texas town and decide to take one last shot at adventure, a massive cattle drive from Texas all the way to Montana. What starts as a let's do something big before it's too late idea quickly turns into an odyssey full of brutal weather, bandits, heartbreak, and the constant reminder that the frontier doesn't care about your plans. Plot-wise, it's a journey story. The farther they go, the more the group gets tested and the more the myth of the West gets stripped down to what it really is: endurance, loss, and hard choices. Along the way you meet unforgettable characters like Lorena, played by Diane Lane, a woman trying to carve out a future in a world that rarely gives women options, and Joshua Deeds, played by Danny Glover, whose loyalty and quiet strength give the story real soul. It's not trying to be cool western, it's trying to be true to the cost of that life. The tone is big, emotional, and beautifully grounded, equal parts adventure and heartbreak, with performances that feel iconic for a reason. If you want a free show that's genuinely legendary, character-driven, and surprisingly bingeable for something this epic, Lonesome Dove is an absolute must. The Lost Room is one of those cult sci-fi mysteries with a premise so good it feels like someone should have turned it into a 10-season obsession. It follows Joe Miller, played by Peter Krause, a Pittsburgh detective who comes across a seemingly ordinary motel room key, except this key can open any door and turn it into a portal to a vanished motel room that exists outside normal reality. And when Joe's younger daughter Anna, played by Elle Fanning, disappears inside that room, the plot turns into a desperate high-stakes scavenger hunt. Because the room didn't just vanish, it left behind dozens of everyday objects from inside it, and each one has a bizarre, reality-bending ability. So Joe is forced to track these objects down, bargain for them, steal them, and outsmart the people hoarding them, while trying to stay ahead of multiple factions who believe the objects are sacred, dangerous, or world-changing. One of the most compelling parts of the story is how quickly it becomes bigger than Joe's personal mission. The deeper he goes, the more it feels like he's stepped into a hidden ecosystem of collectors, cults, and obsessed people who've built their entire lives around this room. The characters give the weirdness weight. Krause is great ordinary guy thrown into impossible rules lead, Juliana Margulies shows up as a key player in the mystery, and Kevin Pollak adds that slick, opportunistic energy that makes you instantly suspicious of everyone. The tone is twisty, eerie, and relentlessly bingeable. Part supernatural thriller, part puzzle box conspiracy. If you like shows like Fringe, The X-Files, or any story where one strange discovery opens a whole hidden world with its own rules, The Lost Room is an absolute must-watch, and it's shockingly easy to devour in just one sitting. The 4400 is one of those high-concept sci-fi mysteries that hooks you instantly because the premise is so clean and unsettling. 4400 people who disappeared over the last 60 years suddenly reappear on the same day, in the same place, with no memory of where they've been, and the creepiest part is, they haven't aged a day. To the world it's a miracle, to the government it's a potential threat, and to the people who came back it's the beginning of a life they don't recognize anymore. The plot follows the investigation into what happened and why, led by two agents assigned to manage the fallout. Tom Baldwin, played by Joel Gretsch, and Diana Skouris, played by Jacqueline McKenzie. Their job isn't just to find answers, it's to deal with panic, conspiracy theories, and the very real fear that something has been done to these people. Because as the returnees start trying to rebuild their lives, it becomes clear that some of them are coming back changed. Not in an obvious superhero way at first, more like small, alarming differences that grow into something bigger, and suddenly the mystery turns into a ticking clock question. What is this leading to? Character-wise, the show really works because it doesn't treat the 4400 as a faceless concept. You get standout returnees like Jordan Collier, played by Billy Campbell, a charismatic figure who becomes dangerously influential, Richard Tyler, played by Mahershala Ali, a man trying to do the right thing in a world that's suspicious of him, and a whole rotating web of people whose personal stories make the sci-fi feel human. The tone is classic early 2000s sci-fi thriller, conspiracy, government tension, moral questions, and that constant sense that the truth is being kept just out of reach. If you like shows like Fringe, The X-Files, or any mystery where every answer creates a bigger question, the 4400 is a seriously addictive free watch. Broadchurch is the definition of a one case changes everything crime drama. The premise is brutally simple. In a small seaside town on the Dorset coast, an 11-year-old boy is found dead, and the investigation detonates the community from the inside out. Everyone knows everyone, everyone has history, and as the case becomes national news, suspicion spreads like wildfire. Not just because the town wants answers, but because secrets don't stay buried when a spotlight hits them. Plot-wise, it's less about flashy twists and more about the slow, painful unraveling of a place that thought it was safe. The detectives are the perfect pairing. D.I. Alec Hardy, played by David Tennant, blunt, guarded, and clearly carrying something heavy, and D.S. Ellie Miller, played by Olivia Colman, who knows the town and the people so well that the job becomes personal in a way she never expected. As they push forward, the show keeps tightening the screw. Grief turns into anger, friendships fracture, the media feeds the chaos, and every new lead forces the town to look at it itself differently. The characters are the secret weapon. You're not watching suspects, you're watching families, co-workers, neighbors, and people trying to survive the worst thing that's ever happened to them. Jodie Whittaker and Andrew Buchan are heartbreaking as the boy's parents, and the whole ensemble feels painfully real, which is why the mystery hits as hard as it does. Tonally, Broadchurch is quiet, bleak, and deeply emotional, a slow-burn investigation where the atmosphere does as much work as the plot. If you like character-driven mysteries that feel human, devastating, and impossible to stop watching once you start, Broadchurch is an absolute must. Community is one of the smartest, funniest sitcoms of the last 2 decades, and the premise is instantly simple. Disgraced former lawyer Jeff Winger, played by Joe McHale, is forced to enroll at Greendale Community College after his fake degree gets exposed. He starts a study group for selfish reasons and accidentally forms a weird little found family with a bunch of misfits who become his entire life. What makes the show so bingeable is how quickly it stops being normal campus comedy. Yes, there are classy sitcom episodes, but then it starts doing genre parodies and high concept chaos. Action movie riffs, heist setups, alternate timelines, mockumentary energy, all while still keeping the emotional core of this group of people who genuinely need each other. And the characters are the secret sauce. Alongside Jeff, you've got Britta, played by Gillian Jacobs, the well-meaning mess, Annie, played by Alison Brie, the overachiever with surprising edge, Abed, played by Danny Pudi, the pop culture genius who basically narrates reality, Troy, played by Donald Glover, the lovable jock-turned-goofball, Shirley, played by Yvette Nicole Brown, the mom friend with still under the sweetness, and Pierce, played by Chevy Chase, the walking problem. Plus Ken Jeong as Senor Chang and Jim Rash as the Dean are 2 of the most reliably unhinged supporting presences in sitcom history. Tone-wise, Community is fast, meta, and ridiculously rewatchable, a comfort show that's also clever enough to surprise you constantly. If you want something genuinely funny that you can throw on for free and immediately fall into, this is an easy win. The IT Crowd is one of the funniest workplace sitcoms ever made, and the premise is beautifully simple. A big, soulless London corporation has an IT department, and it's literally kept in the basement. Down there you've got Roy, played by Chris O'Dowd, and Moss, played by Richard Ayoade. Two socially allergic tech geniuses who can fix anything except a conversation. Then the company hires Jen, played by Katherine Parkinson, to run the department, despite the small issue that she knows absolutely nothing about computers and is basically improvising her job title in real time. Plot-wise, it's classic sitcom structure done perfectly. Office politics, awkward misunderstandings, terrible decisions, and escalating chaos, with the brilliant twist that so many of the problems start as tiny, stupid lies that spiral into full-blown disasters. The show also has an incredible supporting bench, especially Matt Berry as Douglas Reinholm, the new boss, who's equal parts confidence, incompetence, and pure comic destruction. The tone is fast, absurd, and endlessly quotable. The kind of show where an episode starts with normal office day and ends with someone accidentally setting fire to their own life. If you want a free comfort watch that's consistently hilarious, easy to binge, and still holds up ridiculously well, the IT Crowd is an instant win. So that's 14 amazing TV shows you can watch right now completely free on Tubi. No subscriptions, no trial, just great TV that's sitting there waiting to be discovered. If you're trying to save some money, cut down on streaming fatigue, or just want something solid to throw on tonight without committing to yet another monthly fee, hopefully this list helped. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, share it with a fellow TV addict, and subscribe for more smart weekly recommendations. Thanks for watching, happy binging, see you in the next one, and remember, sleep is optional when there's one more episode.